Welcome to Untold, a podcast about Utah's boldest entrepreneurs and business leaders. Their behind the scenes battles, breakthroughs, and what the heck were we thinking moments. These are the stories you wish you'd heard about the businesses you might not have known or right next door. With me today is the CEO of Sebo Marketing, Bruce Rowe. Thanks for being here, Bruce.
Thanks for having me on, John. Looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, me too. This isn't our first conversation. We've known each other a little bit through other networking in the community, and so I'm really looking forward to this because it's a lot easier to come up with questions for people who you know a little bit about, right?
Yeah. Always fun.
So let me jump into one of the things I found really interesting about you is you have an affinity for marathons, Spartan races, and other for some people, like a little bit extreme, very difficult sort of things. So curious about, what do you love about those, and what have doing those taught you about yourself?
Good question. And actually, interesting timing. I'll talk about that in a second. But just to clarify, I've only done one marathon. The quick little story there is when I finished, I essentially fell over on the grass. My family was standing there. My son looked over at me and he goes, "Dad, are you okay?" And I'm like, I hope so. And he goes, "You don't look like you're okay." I was like, "Yeah, this is really hard." And so the next year I did a half marathon. And so after that, I thought, okay, half marathons are much more doable. They're also much more friendly to your family. Like the training that with a triathlon or marathon or all those kind of things, it it almost felt selfish to me to a certain
Oh,
level. Because again, like there's times I'd go do a 20-mile run on a weekend, and then I'd come back and I was tired and I wanted to take a nap and I was sore and I just didn't feel like I was doing as much as I should from a father, a husband perspective, just those kind of things.
hmm.
But the reason I said it was an interesting timing is on Saturday my son and I and a couple of friends are doing the Utah Spartan Beast race. That's a half marathon with about 4,000 feet of climbing, 30 obstacles. We've done it a couple years in a row. It takes us around 6 to 7 hours. And
Wow.
when you're doing it, you're like, why do I pay good money to do stuff like that? But just that idea of being uncomfortable or being comfortable with getting uncomfortable, I think is a really important principle.
Hmm.
And so many people it's so easy to push or coast into ease and comfort and that kind of stuff. And so I just think there's something to that. And so actually just even this morning, I got up around 5 o'clock and then my son and I went over to the Y trail of above BYU. And instead of doing it once, instead of doing it twice, and even instead of doing it a third time, we did it 4 times today. And I've done I've done a double Y a lot, but
Uh-huh.
to do four of them, that it was hard. I mean, it was 4,500 feet of climbing essentially. Yeah, it
Wow.
was. Yeah, we're
So
trying to do that to get ready for
discomfort.
the Spartan Beast. Yeah, discomfort I
Yeah,
think
so
is.
that's a little bit your preview for the beast coming up.
Yeah,
So yeah, you had actually inspired me. I was going to sign up for the one at Snow Basin. Is that the one you're
this
talking
one.
about? The
Exactly.
short one. I was going to do the short one,
Yeah, the
not the
sprint and the super and the beast, or what
yeah.
they have over there.
But I injured my back, so I was like, nah, I'm not going to push it,
No,
especially
yeah,
for the
don't do it.
first time ever, right?
Yeah, don't do a Spartan with a hurt back. That would not be a good idea.
Yeah. But so discomfort is a theme for you. So I'm curious, how does that translate into your leadership, how you run SIBO and how you think about things in the business?
Yeah, great question. There's a lot of stuff I've been reading and thinking about and hearing about some speakers, just about how do you do things a little bit differently. And it's so easy just to think, okay, we have clients, we do this, and we have a team, and they do this, and it's kind of cruise control at times, which is awesome. But and then some stuff comes up, and then you kind of put out this fire or that fire or whatever. But most people really do try to push towards cruise control and ease. I was recently at a meeting. There's a gentleman named Dr. Ben Hardy. He has a couple
Oh,
books
yeah.
that have been very interesting. So I've actually talked to him a couple times in person about this stuff, but 10x is easier than 2x. And when I
Yeah.
first heard that, I was thinking, no, it's not. How in the world could 10x be easier than 2x? And so just kind of thinking through what would you have to do differently? Like it's disruptive. It's not
Right. It
you.
breaks the cycle kind of
Yeah, yeah. And so
incrementalism.
yeah, and so there's just a bunch of stuff along those lines that I
Mm.
think it's really easy if you have, and I'll just use a quotation marks, a successful business, because what does that really mean? But if you have a successful business that runs well, that you're happy with, it's easy not to kind of rock the boat. Um, but that's not always the best things, and we've done a lot of things in the last little while that have definitely changed where we're going and what we're doing. But
So, do you have an example you can share? Is there something that you're in the middle of or that you've done recently that put you out of your comfort zone and is shaking things up at work?
yeah, one of them was I was approached about, let's see, when we're July, so a year, about 15 months ago, by somebody who said, I want to buy your business. And I said, yeah, not interested in selling. I enjoy what I'm doing. I don't want to be retired yet. Some stuff. And we ended up having some conversations. And fast forward a couple months after that, I actually sold the business. So I'm still am president CEO. I still run the business, but somebody else owns it. That was that was a huge shift in thinking because in the
Mm.
past I would make decisions and my decision was fine. But now it's kind of like, but what would he think? Like, is that okay? Is that and so that's been, I'll say, an area of discomfort on one side, some cool things on the other side, but yeah, it's interesting how stuff comes your way and then you look at it, you address it, you gut instinct it, you analyze it, you have lots of different ways of how you make decisions and just try to figure out what's the right move. But a lot of those are easy. Sometimes they're like mind blowing, changing how you
Yeah.
do how you do things.
Well, selling your business, that's a big deal. Yeah. That's, that's about as big a deal as most of us run into at some point. I'm curious. So, you brought up the discomfort and maybe looking at things a little bit differently. As I was looking around at what you do at Sebo, I saw that it's apparently not a practice for you to tie people into contracts like your clients. So,
Yeah,
curious about that choice and how does that shape the way you view accountability at Sebo?
yeah, good question. So uh, we'll go over 20 years ago. I worked at a company. We did SEO and some pay-per-click with internally in the company, but we basically just said, but we're not professionals. We're just figuring it out. So let's go hire somebody. So this company came and they said, okay, we could definitely help. And I said, all right, so why don't you put together a proposal, potential contract? Let's take a look. And my boss essentially said, Bruce, you can decide whether or not to do this. And so I spent quite a bit of time with these guys, got this proposal together, and when I looked at it, it was a 2-year contract. They wanted us to pay $5,000 a month for these services. So doing some rough math, 5,000 times 12 is 60. 2-year contract, 120,000. So what they did is they said, become our client, guarantee $120,000 to us. And they would never say this next part, but they basically said, and cross your fingers and hope it's going to work.
Hmm.
And so I looked at that and I just thought, man, that feels wrong. Um, because you as a company, you are guaranteed to make $120,000. We may or may not get our money back. We may get way more than that. And so I just said, you know what? I don't feel good about this. My boss said, Bruce, they seem like a really good company. Why don't you just pull the trigger and go? And I said, because you put me in charge of it. And if it was my money, I wouldn't do it. And he said, well, it's not your money. You should do it. And I said, let me try something else. So I went back to them and I said, what if we do like a 3-month contract?
Mm-hmm.
And then if we like you at the end of the 3 months, then I'll sign a 2-year at that point. And I was sure they were going to say, sure, yeah, let's do a trial and let's see if we like each other. And they said, nope, SEO takes time. And I thought, well, wait a second. When I started working for that company, I made SEO changes that made immediate impacts. And I'm like, it shouldn't take that long.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, okay, if you're not willing to do a short contract, then can we do a performance-based contract? And they said, what are you talking about? And I said, our sales are this. If we increase it,
Yeah.
then you get the
You
percentage.
get a
Or
percent. Yeah.
yeah. Or there's a number of units, or there's something. If you do what you say you're going to do, and they said, yeah, we would do that. I said, wait a second. You're telling me that if we said we're going to pay you $1,000 instead of $5,000, and if you do exactly what you said in the proposal, you would make $10,000 a month instead of $5,000 a month just for doing what you said in the proposal,
Yeah.
then that seems like a no-brainer. You would say yes to that. And they said, yeah, that's not how we do things. That's not the right way to go. Are you really not going to sign up with us? And I'm like, not under these terms. And so
Mm.
I told my boss, and he got mad at me because he's like, Bruce, you spent a lot of time and energy researching this. And I said, yeah, but again, I don't think it's the right way to go. And so in that situation, I thought, okay, what are other companies doing? Is there a better way? I don't know if it's really better, but it felt like a better way. And then I thought, should I consider actually setting something like this up? And so
Mm-hmm.
that led into a series of events that allowed me to start a company with that framework. So without contracts, it's all performance based. And frankly, we had one of the guys on our team early on, like 2005 timeframe, signed up somebody with a contract. And what ended up happening is we didn't like the client at all. They were a pain to work with, and they had unreasonable expectations, and we couldn't get out of it. Like
You
it was
got
both
the other
directions.
direction.
Yeah, yeah. So
Mm.
we actually were stuck for over a year with this client that we just didn't like, and he didn't like us, and it was awkward, and it was
Mm.
so that's kind of how that
Okay.
started. Just
And is
seeing what
that the
other people
beginning
do.
of was that kind of the beginning of your company and Sebo Marketing then is when you stood that up?
A little, yeah. There's a little connecting story there. So the company that I was working for, I did say yes to this contract,
Yeah.
and so we just started doing stuff, and things were going really, really well. Um, Fast forward, my boss basically said, "You've gone after all these words and all these phrases, and everything's going really well. It seems like now it's going to be on autopilot. So I don't really see what value you're going to provide anymore. So I'd like you to go find another job." And I said, "Wait a second. I've increased your sales from here to here, like tripled their sales, and you're letting me go?" And he said, "Yeah, I just don't see what else you could do for us." And so I thought, well, okay, now what? So then I need to go home and talk to my wife about it and tell her about it. And so then she was like, "Well, what are you going to do next?" And I said, "I don't know." So it's either go back to him, try to convince him to keep me around, or find another business that I can do the same thing for. And then I
Mm-hmm.
thought, well, couldn't I potentially do this for other companies? Like, I know enough people. I'm willing to talk to people and just see if I could find clients.
Mm.
So the guy that essentially fired me, I went back and I told him what I was going to do, and he said, "Oh, Bruce, business ownership is really hard. You don't have what it takes to have a successful business. Don't go down this path. Just go get a job." And I was like, wow, thank you for that massive vote of confidence, obviously sarcastically. And so then I just thought, let's try it. So
Mm.
so I basically just started doing some stuff kind of on the side as I was finishing up the job with him, and then it started working.
Huh. Is there any connection between your reaction to his feedback and the resilience that you work on in your
Oh
long
man,
distance stuff?
that's a great question, because again, the easiest thing would have been either convince him or just go find a job.
Hmm.
Um, but then I just thought, well, what can I learn? I mean, let's just try. In my mind, I am not a normal visionary entrepreneur that has these big visions of what you're going to accomplish and stuff. I'm more of a realist and like what are the bad things that could happen? Not
Hmm.
negative, but just like, okay, so if I do this and it doesn't work, and so I thought, okay, so I try it for 6 months, it doesn't work, then I just go get a job. So the downside of trying it wasn't big enough. And so then I just thought, let's just try on the side.
Okay.
Within 3.5 months, I was making more on the side than I was from the full-time job. And so again, I took little baby steps towards entrepreneurship more than what a lot of people think entrepreneurs really are like.
Like, yeah, oh, that's cool. So, I just realized we kind of neglected to actually talk about what your business does. You explained it through your story, but I'm
Yeah.
sure that you can probably sum it up for somebody who's interested. Like, what do you focus on, and what do you do for your customers?
Quick little elevator pitch. Like if I'm really talking to somebody, um, I'm Bruce Rowe with Sebo Marketing. We are Utah's Google experts, really good at SEO and pay-per-click and Google My Business. And at that point, usually somebody say, "What's this, that?" Or "I've heard of this one or that one." Um, and then I'll just say, I mean, in summary, we try to help you show up higher in Google. There's lots and lots of different ways that people search for stuff, and then having your website have a presence online is what we do. That's the short, quick version.
So that's great. I was on doing a podcast actually with somebody the other day, and they brought up that AI is really changing the ad space, right? That Google's almost eating itself, right? By providing the AI answers, they're reducing the
Yeah,
amount of clicks
absolutely.
for the ads, and so like, where does that put you? Yeah, I don't really understand it very well, but like, is there like, how would you explain it, and like, what's the
Oh
impact to you?
man, yeah.
Did I just open a Pandora's
Oh,
box?
I love this topic. And the reason why I say I love this topic is I've gotten at least 2 emails a year from sincere friends that say something like SEO is dead or pay-per-click is dead. And so they'll say, Bruce, this is from a pretty reputable source. So I'm sorry to break the bad news, but like what are you gonna do next? And I'll just smile and I just think, all right. So if you were to do a search, um, something along the lines of how many search queries does Google process a day? So in other words, how many people are actually using Google? And you can do the same thing with ChatGPT or other AI bots and stuff. Right now, it's in the 8 billion with a B searches in a day. So meaning there's lots and lots and lots and lots of queries that go through Google. Okay, so what you were just bringing up is the idea that many of those searches don't actually result in a click to a website. Those are by definition known as what's called a zero click result.
Okay.
So a long time ago, when Google first started doing things, you'd see some pay-per-click ads and some SEO results, and that was about it. And so most clicks turned into a click either on an ad or SEO results. And a little side note, most people say I never ever click on the ad stuff anyways, so I'm just gonna go click on the SEO stuff. That's a different topic. But in any case, back then the number of zero click results. So another reason why you might have a zero click result is you search for something and the results you see don't feel right.
Yeah.
So you just try again. That would count as a zero click result.
Okay.
So so right now, that number, due to AI and other things, the amount of zero clicks is increasing quite dramatically. As of right now, the data says it's around 60% of all searches are a zero click result. Again, it used to be 5%, 10%. Now it's 60%. So a lot of people will say, "Oh, I'm sorry, Bruce, that must mean that your business doesn't really
That's still
provide you value
3.2
anymore."
billion
That's
clicks.
That's the math. And so again, if
Yeah.
you're basically just saying you take that number, you multiply that out, so if you're getting 3.2 billion clicks, and so now where do those clicks go? In general, SEO is going to be the most of them. Pay-per-click ads are going to be a small percentage of them. So some people say, well, I've never clicked on a pay-per-click ad, so nobody ever clicks on a pay-per-click ad. No, let's do the math. It's actually about 2% of the people click on the pay-per-click ad. So if you have 2% of 8 billion, that is a ton of clicks every single day.
Hmm.
So we have SEO results, we have pay-per-click results, and then if it's a geo-targeted phrase like ice cream near me, or since we're in Provo, Utah, whatever phrase, then you're likely also going to see a map of some sort. And
Yeah.
that's what's known as the Google My Business listing. So when those clicks happen, so the 60% zero clicks, but the 40% that are actually clicks, almost all of those are going to go on the SEO side or the Google My Business listings, with a couple percentage of those going over to the pay-per-click side. And
Hmm.
so that's kind of how that breakdown works. But because of that math, and they'll say, well, what about ChatGPT? And what about this other tool? And what about these other search engine or whatever? We're just looking at Google's numbers by themselves. And businesses really, really, really could benefit for showing up most of the time if somebody searches for something that's related to your business.
Okay. So is Google, I mean, are they raising ad prices to be able to, because it basically is lowering their top line, right? If they're reducing clicks. So are they
Right.
raising it to kind of keep it flat, or like how's it, how are the
No.
economics coming through for your customers?
The economics always have been based on the number of searches for a phrase, based on the geographic area that you're targeting, and which network you're using. So what I mean by that is text-based ads versus
Yeah.
display ads on other websites. So all of those different, there's lots of different ways or places your pay-per-click ads can show up. And so Google just has algorithms to figure out what's the optimal price. And one thing that surprises a lot of people is they'll say, I did pay per click before. The cost per click were just so expensive. It just doesn't financially work. And so you really do have to do the math. And so let's just do some really, really basic math here for a second. Let's just say a click is $5. If you get 100 clicks, that means you're going to pay Google $500. Again, we're just only talking pay per click. We're not talking about the
Yeah.
zero clicks or anything else. So in that case, you paid $500, you got 100 visitors to your website. Now let's just suppose you're a lead gen, your business to business kind of business company, you get 5 leads, and let's just say 2 of those leads become a client, and let's just say a client is $1,000. Making up numbers here.
Yeah.
If that's the case, you spend $500 to get 100 clicks to your website. The 100 clicks to your website turn into 5 leads, so you have a 5% conversion rate. And then out of those 5, 3 of them didn't make sense, 2 of them became your client. So you had a 40% close rate on those
Hmm.
leads. And if the value to you is $1,000, then we had 2 clients, $1,000 each, that's $2,000. We put $500 in, we got $2,000 back out. So most people never do that math. They just kind of say, let's try it. Let's just see what happens. But if you're not tracking the math correctly, pay-per-click can be really expensive. And so the other thing to realize is that Google, this surprises lots of people. If you're doing pay-per-click right, they actually charge you less. If you're doing pay-per-click wrong, they're going to charge you more. And the reason why is, so let's just say that you are targeting a particular phrase. So the phrase that I use when I teach some classes is somebody's looking for a used blue Honda Accord. So they go to Google, they type in used blue Honda Accord. If the ad text says, come visit Hawaii, meaning it's not related at all to the search, is that a good result for the searcher? No.
Oh.
So Google actually penalizes that. So they're going to say, we're either going to charge you more or we're going to show you in a lower position. So the inverse of that is true. If you type in used blue Honda Accord and the ad text says we have used blue Honda Accords in stock, We're located 5 miles away from you because we can do that with targeting and stuff. Then you click on the ad and you land on a page and it shows a used blue Honda Accord that's for sale. That's a good sequence for the searcher and the clicker.
Yeah.
So Google actually charges you less and shows you in a higher position if you're doing it right. And most people
Interesting.
don't, so they don't know that concept. So they've tried pay per click, and most people just say, here's 50 words I want to go after. So they put all 50 words in there, and then they have a generic ad and the generic landing pages or page, and they send them to the home page. Sorry, Google's penalizing you for that. So when you come back and say, yeah, we tried pay per click, it didn't work. Yeah, because you're doing it wrong.
Oh, and it seems like it's a double hit because you're
It
going to get
is.
charged more, plus you're going to get a lot more crappy hits, like
Correct.
a lot more maybe low quality
Yeah, yeah.
type of hit.
And Google specifically is trying to give the searcher a good experience. So
Yeah.
the good experience is I searched for used blue Honda Accord. I saw an ad about a used blue Honda Accord. I came to a page that had a used blue Honda Accord nearby. That's what we're looking for. If we search and we do that, and then we're going to keep coming back to Google.
Okay.
If if you're not doing that correctly, we're not likely to go back to Google. That's why Google penalizes that.
Okay. So what you guys are doing is really helping people to do it right and helping people to structure things and know the math and get
Yep.
more bang for their buck. Okay.
Yep.
So thanks for the explanation. Wanted to come back around again to, I had another question about kind of related to your philosophy or your leadership. So I don't know if you remember this. We were on a Zoom call and I had a photo from Utah in my background of Grand Staff Arch, just outside of Moab.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? Do you remember what you
Yeah.
said?
I don't remember what I said. It
You,
was probably just something. Did you take the picture? Were you there recently? Something along those lines, but I don't remember exactly. Sorry.
no, I remember it really well because you actually told me, hey, me and my team rappelled off of that arch.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, the picture with the arch next to the wall. Yeah.
Yeah, there was an arch right next to, yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys went down through that slot. So the question for me, so you personally, like you like to live kind of an adventurous lifestyle. You're, you made a decision to like go and do stuff like that with your team. Like this was a team event.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
guys went and did that. So tell me about like what led to that, like and like how do you find
Yeah.
do you find it's effective? Like what does it do for you and your team?
Yeah. Well, so to answer the first part, what led to that? I was meeting with my accountant a long time ago, and he said, Bruce, you guys are starting to do pretty well. Can I give you a suggestion? Sure. Why don't you take your team on a trip? And my first thought was, that sounds expensive. Tell me what you're thinking. And they said, well, we've been doing this now for a couple of years. And I said, where do you guys go? And they said to Kauai. And I said, wait, you're flying people? So you're asking me to buy some plane tickets and then find some rental cars and some lodging and some all that kind of stuff out of my own pocket doing this? And I said, well, before we go any further with this, I need to go talk to my wife about it, just to kind of see if what her thoughts are. And so we're looking at business finances. This is a potential side tangent, but there's a book called Profits First. I actually was helping a young entrepreneur today. We just had lunch a couple hours ago, and he didn't really understand his business math. And so we were talking about the book Profits First and how to actually look at things. So inside of there, it basically just says money comes in, take the money that comes in. So you're gonna have your rent and your payroll, and you're gonna have all these other things. Then you should have some other buckets. So for things like taxes in the future, or we have something called future purchases. We have another bucket that's called trips and fun. And so my accountant basically just said, take a really small percentage of your revenue and just drop it into the trips and fun bucket. And so we started thinking through that. I thought, okay, so if we do that for this long, where could we potentially go? So then one Christmas, man, I should know the date of this. This is probably 12 years ago, 10, 12 years ago. Um, and anyways, I I thought, okay, let's see how this would work. So I ended up taking our team down to Maui. Um, so that Christmas, I said, guys, I have a special gift for all of you. And I gave them a box, and inside the box, they opened it up, and it was a snorkel and a mask. And then it was a fake paper airplane ticket, like back
Uh,
in the a long time ago where we had paper airplane
Actual
tickets.
tickets.
Yeah, they'd get sent to us and then we'd use them. So I basically made something like that. I had all my team open up the box at the same time, and they looked down and they're like, "What's this?" And I said, "What's a plane ticket? I'm going to take you guys to Hawaii." And I was thinking the reaction is going to be, "Yes, this is going to be awesome." The reaction was, "No, you're not." And I said, "Do you guys not think I'm an honest guy? Like, why would I say that if I'm not actually going to do that?" And they said, "There's no way you would do that. Like, to fly us all there, that's going to be this many thousands of dollars." And it's like, guys, no, we're going to do this. And a month before, I still had a couple people on the team. They're like, "I still don't think it's going to happen." Guys, look at my calendar; it's blocked out. We're going to Maui. So so we went down there, and we were down at this place called Koki Beach on the south side of Maui over by Hana. Not a lot of people have heard about Koki Beach, but I was teaching people how to body surf in this beautiful spot. We had all to ourselves, perfect body surfing. And I looked around, I just thought, holy cow, all my full-time people are here. We're having this amazing experience. And I thought that's why I really want to be a business owner. Like I want to be able to bless other people's lives or help them have cool experiences or whatever, however you want to phrase it. Um, and so then that just kind of grew from there. So that's something that we've done every year since then. There's some years where the budget's a little higher because we had a better year. There's some years where it's way less, and so we just kind of have to figure out what the numbers are going to look like, and then but but as a result, like there's a lot of turnover in the digital marketing world from a company perspective. And I could point out the window back over here to four people on my team that have been with me for over 12 years.
Mm.
And that's pretty rare in that industry. And that also allows us to all be really, really good at it and understand how SEO works and pay-per-click works. So there's a business benefit, there's a client benefit, there's a family and team member benefit. Like our last trip was a cruise down from California down to Mexico for several days, and spouses came along, and just awesome experience.
That's cool. Yeah. So kind of on the surface, right, it looks like something frivolous, but
Yeah,
you see it
yeah,
as something that is strategic
yep, yep.
and worthwhile. That's cool.
And I probably had 10 different companies. So just yesterday, I had a guy in my office, and as we were doing some introductions, one of the guys from this company I didn't know, and the owner said, "You know how we do our annual trips? It's because of Bruce." So Bruce is the one that brought this up, and he goes, "Oh, cool. I don't know you, but thank you very much." Like, and so there's probably a dozen companies that I know that I've walked through the process with them, just to have these experiences. So it's not just our team that's benefiting from it. So I'm really appreciative to my accounting guys that said, "Here's how we do it. Try it. Consider it." Um, so it's cool to learn from other people's experiences, just kind of see how things go.
Oh, that's cool. So that kind of brings up another question. So, one of the other things that I see that you do, right? And you mentioned this a little bit. You talked about workshops. You're putting on workshops for people who do ads. I know there's a marketing network, the Utah Marketing Group that you've put together and help
Yeah,
organize, and you put energy into organizing these things. So you're doing things kind of, in a giving sort of way. Like, what experience led to you deciding that that's the stance
mm,
you're going
mm,
to take toward business, toward the way you operate?
question. In my mind, so I'm thinking of those two situations, and I'll give the short version of the story. The first one was clients would come to us and say, we don't understand what you guys are doing for us, but that's okay. You just you just figure it out. And I thought that's really not the best relationship. The better relationship would be, let's work together on how to make this happen. But we realized there was a gap in their brains, the client's brains, of how this worked. And so we just said, let's bring in some clients and just say, can we explain to you how Google Analytics and data tracking works? Can we explain how SEO actually works? Can we explain how pay-per-click works? Can we explain how conversion rate optimization works? And so we had a bunch of clients that said, yeah, we'd love to learn more about that. So they came over and they said, if you teach us, then aren't we just going to leave you guys and we're just going to do it on our own? And I said, yeah, maybe. But if that's the best thing for your business, then go for it. But what we would hope is that you realize what we're doing, you take some responsibilities, we take some responsibilities, and we work together more as a team. So that purpose was just to try to help our have better relationships with our clients. Now, fast forward, we've had 1,500 companies go through our free website boot camps in Provo, just to try to. So now it's not even just clients; it's just. So what happened is lots of people said, Bruce, this was so good. My sister has a business. She would love to come to this. Can we
Mm-hmm.
invite somebody else? And so that's kind of how it expanded outside of just our client list. Um, so that was one. Utah Marketing Group. Um, the way that one happened was I was at a networking event and somebody came up to me and said, hey, Bruce, you're a marketer. Can you help us with this? And I looked at him and I said, yeah, that's not what we do. Like we don't do any of that stuff. And honestly, selfishly, I was kind of annoyed. I was thinking, how did they not know that? We've known each other for a long time. And then I thought, well, wait a second. That's not on them. That's on me. If
Mm-hmm.
if they thought you're a marketer, can you help me with this? And they didn't know that what we do or what we don't do, that's my fault. So I started realizing that there's people that they don't really know the difference between this marketing company and this marketing company and this marketing company,
Yeah.
even within a category. So we had several friends that were video guys, but the kinds of videos you're doing and the way you're going to distribute them and all these things are massively different. So what I did is I thought I'm just going to try to get some people together that are marketers, whatever category they happen to be in, and let's just get them together and let's just see how we can help each other. So we had this meeting. We had one awkward situation where one guy was in the room and he looked over at this other guy and he's like, why is he here? And I said, because I invited him. And then he said, well, why is he here? Because I invited him. Well, if he's going to be here, I don't want to be here. And I said, if you're going to think that way, I don't want you here either. And so both of them left. And so just that idea of the competitors in your industry, ideally you can learn from them, you can help them, you can work together. So so if you happen to Google the phrase Utah Marketing Group, our website's going to show up. It's pretty basic, but you go to the partners page, we have all these different companies that are listed there. All of them are good friends of Sebo. And so what that allows us now is, hey, client, you're looking for this. We could potentially do it, but these guys are better at it. Let's get them involved.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so why we do that is to help the companies and to make sure that they're really getting the best experience, not just,
Mm-hmm.
oh, you'll give me money? Sure, I can
Right.
do that.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And then also, right, you're improving your ability to get referrals, right, from other people
No
because now
question.
they know exactly what you do.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm sure it's great collaboration that can happen there. So,
It-
no, really cool. So coming back real quick to your business. So you sold a year and a half ago, you sold your business. You still are CEO, you still run it. You know, why now? Like, you know, I think you told me before that you'd turned down just out of hand many offers. So what's different and like what possibilities does this open up for you now?
yeah, yeah, good question. I think there's a couple parts to that. So why would you sell? So many people have the vision of I want to build a business, I want to sell it by the time I'm X years old, or I want to sell it for this much money by the whatever. So that's the motivation for lots of people. That was not my motivation at all. The motivation was, can we help clients and provide a good life for my family and for my employees and for our clients? And so all of that's the motivation. And so when I was approached in the past, I thought I'll listen, because even if we don't do anything together, at least I'm going to learn. Like, what things would I potentially accept in the future? What things would I not aren't like? What are important to me? What's not important to me? So I listened to lots of those conversations. Um, and again, in summary, in this particular case, when I was approached, I said, we can have the conversation, but there's three reasons why this isn't going to happen. And he said, okay, tell me about it. I said, number one is, most times when somebody acquires a business, they want to change the leadership. And I like doing this. So I
Hmm.
don't want to be done. I don't want to be essentially forced out. Well, Bruce,
Yeah.
you're getting some money in the process. No, I get it, but I don't want to be forced out. So I need to still be involved. Number two, our business runs because I have an awesome team. And so if they're gone, or you're going to start getting rid of some and say, well, we don't need this position because we already have this with our other, then I'm not interested. Like, that would be really sad to have some financial benefits to us, but not be fair to them. And
Yeah.
so that was number two. And then number three in my mind is, if you're going to make an offer, then it has to be fair. I mean, it has to be something that's worth our time and energy. Um, And so again, if somebody is considering selling, I think that idea of, why would you, why wouldn't you? Like, what are the factors or the criteria? And most people, they just think, if somebody comes along and they offer me this much money, yeah, I'm going to take it, I'm going to run. Yeah, but then what? Like,
What's next? Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, there's so much more to it than the money or the structure or all those kind of things. So just kind of learning what you would say yes to, what you would not say yes to. So I'm like, when I had that conversation with him, I already knew, here are the three holding points, or
Yeah.
the sticking points. So let's address those. And obviously he addressed them very satisfactorily. And so that it made sense.
Good. Wow. Great explanation. And it strikes me too that, you know, you that answer of what's next, right? Because like you said, it's not, life isn't like, oh, now all of a sudden I have a bank account, has an extra zero or two in it. Like, so I have no cares in the world, right? Like,
And
it
what's
strikes me
next?
that
Yeah.
you're clear that, you know what you want to keep doing. Like, I want to keep running this business for X amount of time or whatever, right? So you kind of reversed engineered your life in the future into what needs to be met today,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
I mentioned Ben Hardy earlier. There's another book that he was involved, Be Your Future Self Now. And
Yeah.
that simply, the idea is, look 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years. What does life look like? And don't just arrive wherever. Design that, figure that out, and then work backwards, essentially. And so that idea of, again, if it's a business owner out there that's considering selling, have conversations and just see what appeals, what doesn't appeal. But then still, if he came to me and said, Bruce, I'm going to give you plenty of money, you don't need money again anymore for the rest of your life, then would you go away? And then I was thinking, okay, so let's just say I have 40 more years of life. I have some hobbies, but I don't want to run that many races. I don't want to play that much golf. I don't want to do. So, I mean, you really do have to figure out, what does life look like? And so my
Mm.
wife and I have had lots and lots of conversations. And there's another book recently that I read. It's called Die with Zero. Hate the
Yeah.
title. Love the stuff in the book, but in there they basically say, you shouldn't just be saving money indefinitely. You should be saving money for experiences. And then an interesting thought that they brought up was experiences at certain ages. So, for example, an easy way to picture that is, if my wife and I decided, I'm not saying we would or not, And if we decided to hike the Inca Trail up to Machu Picchu, when would we do that? When, in our 90s?
Not
Probably
when
not.
you're
Okay.
85,
Okay.
right?
Yeah. So in your 80s? No, probably not. Okay. 70s? Still probably not. Okay. So if we were to do something like that, then you need to kind of time block when do you want to have these experiences. So
Yeah.
in there, they talk about the idea of a bucket list, and you said the bucket list is a terrible idea because it kind of says you've almost missed your chance. Go cross these things off your bucket list as fast as you can before you die, and that's reactive. That's not deliberative. That's not pre-planned. And so
Mm,
the idea is have conversations. So Kim and I have had conversations about what are there cities in the United States we've never visited that we'd like to visit? Are there
yeah.
cities in the world that we've never visited that we'd like to visit? Are there activities? Are there things? So if you start thinking what's next, kind of make a list and then time block them to
Hmm.
say, so some of these things would have to happen now versus later and that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
But
because
knowing
it's,
what's
I mean,
next,
really, when you look at life, right, yeah, I've heard the term not instead of quality of life, like, or lifespan, they talk about health span.
yeah,
Like, at what ages are you capable of doing the things that
absolutely.
you want to do? And yeah, it's interesting because that same conversation between my wife and I led to us going to Iceland last month.
Oh, nice.
You know, it was, okay, maybe a little bit of a bucket list, like, yeah, someplace we wanted to go, but yeah, I don't want to, yeah, when can you go there? That's a great question. Awesome. Well, this is excellent, Bruce. I know we're kind of out of time. I, you know, I could talk for hours, but
That's been
this has
fun.
been great. And maybe I'll have to have you back in the second season to keep expanding on these things. So, we talked a lot about Google Ads and what you guys do at Sebo. If somebody's interested in learning more, where would you send them? Send them to a website, or do you have other ways that you connect with potential customers?
You can find us in a couple of different places, but if you go to Sebo Marketing, SEBOmarketing.com, that will pull up our website. You'll see a list of the different services that we do. We have some good information about our team members because, again, if somebody wants to work with us, we want to make sure that we like them, they like us, and they feel like we'd be the right fit. So we have a built-out team page. But yeah, that's where we probably start. If they're local, then we also have um, different kinds of events that we do, but we list those on the website as well. And so, like for example, the website boot camps, we do
Mhm.
those on a pretty regular basis, and even if we don't have any connection to the person, we'd love to have them attend. Again, free, includes lunch. It's just simply us trying to teach and help because we enjoy doing that.
Excellent. Awesome. I really appreciate your time today, Bruce. That was great. And yeah, I look forward to chatting again sometime and dig into some of the things we didn't even have time to get to, like your teaching at BYU and other interesting things that
Yeah.
the time just flew by too fast. So thanks for your time today, Bruce.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.